Time now for sports on 104.7 The Cave. Here's Ned Reynolds.
Mike the intern, Ned Reynolds, back together again. It's a Tuesday, and we got to start off our conversation with some sad note. Probably one of the biggest, and I mean, just in size alone, Grateful Dead fans of all time. Also, of course, an incredible basketball player.
Called him the Grateful Red, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, big guy.
Bill Walton had, he was 6'11", probably 7 feet, but he reduced it by an inch. Anyway, fact is, he had red hair, and he was one of the great basketball players, and probably quite literally the biggest of the Grateful Dead fans. He attended more than, over 100 concerts, and had guests coming in and so forth. He was a deadhead. There's no question about it. A strange guy, but my goodness sake, what a basketball player he was. You know, Mike, when you judge the college players of the year as chosen by the media and some of the ADs around the country, if you win that once, you're one of the best. He is a 3-time winner of the College Player of the Year. Part of a UCLA winning streak that, in my opinion, a record that will never be broken. 88 straight victories by UCLA, and Bill Walton was part of it. He was there at the end of it, too, at Notre Dame. Remember the game? We had it on TV at KY3 back then. And yes, here's UCLA leading by 11 points with about 5 minutes to go, and Notre Dame got them in South Bend in the end and ended an 88-game winning streak. Anyway, that's all part of it. Walton was just unbelievable. In the NCAA title game, I think it was 1972, if I remember correctly, they played in St. Louis, and it was UCLA against Memphis. He missed exactly one shot in the entire game, scoring 44 points. He was among the most dominant players, number 1 draft pick of the Portland Trailblazers, led them to the NBA championship, and then sat out, and this is incredible, sat out 3 entire seasons because of foot injuries, surgery after surgery, and these minute little fractures, and 3 years he sat out and then came back and led his team to glory. He was an NBA All-Star. He was the top 6th man when he got close to retirement, and then 30 years in broadcasting. Bill Walton was just one of the greats. And again, a bit of a hippie. A little strange guy. This is a little known fact about him that I had read. His teammates on UCLA, he was not disliked by his teammates, but he wasn't one of them. They had a nickname for him. They called him Skunky. And what in the world, Skunky? He would go days upon days without showering. And just because he was an iconoclast, he wanted to be part of the counter culture, they called it back then, and kind of made John Wooden a little bit mad, but Walton had such respect for his coach, John Wooden, that he finally straightened up. And the fact is that he was one of the best, and he'll go down in history as one of the best. A very sad note, only 71, and how he kept that illness from the public, I'll never tell you. He had cancer.
They didn't want anyone to know, and he's a strong dude, and that's the way it is. So sometimes that's what the guy's wish is. That's what he deserves. Also, little known fact, I guarantee you it wasn't just the fact that he was not showering is why they called him Skunky. I'll let you figure that out on your own, Ned. But on the subject of basketball, Celtics kind of knew those guys were going to the finals, didn't you?
Didn't think it would be a sweep, but it was. Now, that's not to indicate that they're that much better than the Indiana Pacers. Last night's game, for instance, won by the Celtics 105-102. The only time in the fourth period that Boston led was at the end. The only time. Indiana was ahead in that game, 98-90 at one point in the fourth period. Boston shut them down. That's how Boston does it. They're a streaky team. They're a great defensive team. They have Jason Tatum on their team, and he's a magnificent offensive player. They have others. Don't get me wrong. It's a really good basketball team. But Boston wins 105-102 in Indianapolis, and now awaits the winner of the Western Conference playoffs between the Dallas Mavericks, who lead going into tonight's game 2-0. I beg your pardon. I'm wrong on that. They lead 3-0 over the Minnesota Timberwolves. So it would appear to be that Minnesota, I beg your pardon, it appeared to be that Dallas and the Boston Celtics will play, but that's not decided yet. Might be tonight.
Oh, so in this country, it's interesting. Some people can get by, not because of how good they are at their job, because sometimes they're just liked by everyone. For whatever reason, there are people that hold jobs way longer than they should. Such is the case, in my opinion, of the recent Major League Baseball umpire who is retiring after 30 years, who, in my opinion, is not a great umpire. I'm sure that could be argued, but do you think this was a situation of you should probably just turn in your card, sir, or we're going to do it for you?
I have to think it's that way.
Yeah, me too. It finally got so bad that the guy has to go.
And the fact that you mentioned the others, and they're not very good, but they're liked by everybody, and he wasn't liked by anybody. And that's a shame, too, because as a human being, he's, I'm sure, not a bad person. He operates or is in charge of a charity down in Florida for underprivileged kids. He has a family. He's a human being. He had, for the very first game he ever umpired in the major leagues, he had almost 60 of his neighbors show up to support him in that one. But the guy is now, when they rate umpires, they don't rate them in individual numbers like 32, 31, 30. They're in groups, and he's annually among the worst 3 in all of baseball. We're talking about Angel Hernandez. And Angel Hernandez announced his retirement yesterday. Actually, baseball announced it for him. They've been under negotiations going on. Hernandez is 61 years old. And, folks, he just really, I don't know why he can't. What was it, the stat I saw in the other day? As a first base umpire last year, he had 14 of his calls overturned. He's well over 50% in inaccuracy. Not being right on the button, but inaccurate calls. Over 60%. You can't have that.
Nope.
And this guy's been going on for years and years and rated poorly, and the players all noticed it. The media certainly does. The fans do. The guy maybe has had enough. Anyway, he is retiring, not next week or next month.
Gone.
He's now. Yeah. Right now, he is gone out of there, but he does get the umpire's retirement, and that's pretty good. He's still a young man, 61. He made a very big mistake. He made a lot of mistakes, but a very big one by challenging Major League Baseball when he was not made a crew chief. That's the highest honor an umpire can have, in charge of your own crew. And he alleged racial discrimination. 2 courts threw it out. Said no basis for this at all. That did not do any good for him at all.
That's probably why that was the end. But it's because, like I was going to say at the end of this, it takes a lot for a league to admit that their officials are not up to the task of being very, very good and consistently good, NFL. But when he started to bite the hand that fed him and kept him in that job.
Bad choice. Very, very bad choice.
Now you get nothing. Well, I mean, he did get his retirement, so be lucky enough to do that for as great of a job as he did. See ya. Enjoy Florida. So the Cardinals back out on the road. They're in Cincinnati. How'd they do yesterday?
Lost to the Reds 3-1. The Reds are a streaking team. They just got through sweeping the Dodgers at home in Cincinnati, and that's pretty good. Not a whole lot of hitting in this game. Each team had 5 hits, but the Cardinals, who got a quality start from Lance Lynn, did not back him. They committed 2 very costly errors in the early part of the game that opened the doors, and Cincinnati, who scored all 3 runs in the first 2 innings of the game, stopped the Cardinals. 3-1 was the final score. Just one of those games. It's part of baseball. Cardinals are still playing pretty well. The Cardinals' 1 home run, I'll tell you, the guy's now on a tear. Paul Goldschmidt, we were maligning the fact that he wasn't hitting the ball and all that sort of thing, and maybe the time has come. Now he's suddenly emerged. He's up to about .215 now with the batting average, but hitting the long ball, which he can do. Still, Cardinals lost by a score of 3-1. And the end of a mini winning streak for the ball club, but they'll come on. They're not playing that badly, and they play again tonight.
Speaking of cooling down, the Royals, after going on an 8-game winning streak, finally have lost 2 in a row, but I wouldn't give up hope just yet.
No, good heavens, no. Minnesota Twins are a pretty good ball club. They are behind Kansas City. But how about this? This gives you an idea about how the Royals are playing. The Twins had a 6-1 lead going into the 9th inning. Kansas City, they're playing in Minneapolis. Kansas City comes to bat and almost wins the game. Got 4 runs, had the tying and winning run on base, and didn't get that final key hit that would have been a magnificent comeback. 6-5 was the final. Minnesota won it. But I'll tell you, Kansas City doesn't give up. They're a very good baseball team. Are they mature enough to come through? That remains to be seen. But by the same token, they can play.
Missouri Baseball Championships are underway just a little south of Springfield. What teams are playing for the state titles
We
today?
will have 2 title games today. The Class 2 title game, that'll be this afternoon, has Maysville against Iberia, and the Iberia team is undefeated, 27-0 going into this one. The Class 1 game will feature Oran against Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart played Wheatland from this area yesterday and won by a score of 16-6, so Wheatland will play for 3rd place a little bit later on this afternoon. But in terms of the title game, Iberia will represent the southwest and south central Missouri. Then classes 3 and 4 tomorrow, 5 and 6 on Saturday.
Ned, you have a wonderful Tuesday. I mean, the best news in the world is that we're already at the halfway point of the week tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow.